So before read receipts, you could tell yourself that they hadn't seen it yet. That's gone now. Okay, so someone wrote into an advice column a few years ago where she started dating someone new. And this was Now, obviously, relationships these days, there is a lot of technological focus. So these two were texting back and forth. And for the first time, or in our story, for the first time, she'd encountered that her new partner left on read receipts. I don't know how to spell receipts. I before E, except after C. Read receipts on. Now, this is kind of normal. We've seen it. I mostly use WhatsApp. So you see that the texts go from white to blue once they have been read. Now, what would happen is that message, this person would then have a blue tick over here, cool, lacquer, then back here, and they would respond after reading that. Now, because it's a new relationship, she would obsess over checking if he's read her messages. And whenever they went blue or they said read at this time, she would anxiously wait for a reply. And the thing is, when he didn't reply straight away, she would spiral. But an interesting part of the story is that she said when she interacted with other people that didn't have read receipts on, so let's say her ex-boyfriends or other boyfriends in the past, the lack of the read receipts over here, it obviously made her a little bit anxious. But the wording here was that she never obsessed over it. She never went into a spiral of like, is he ignoring me? What's going on? Because she said that she can still imagine that this other person hadn't actually seen the text message yet, and that this person was busy doing something else. Maybe they were chilling on their laptop, or they were actually at work like the rest of the adults and not constantly checking his phone. And these thoughts kept the spiraling at bay. And the thing is, read receipts, they completely removed that. And they sent her into a spiral. So I took inspiration from that story from this blogging website, Daily Dot. And it is, how many years old now? It's from 2018, so it is 8 years old now. So we've existed with this for almost a decade. And in the story, she writes, and I quote, "Because I can imagine they had just not seen it yet, so I don't have to worry that they're just avoiding me or annoyed by me or have genuinely just lost interest in seeing me ever again." And the feature, it was designed to give people more information. And you know what? It did. But it also took something away. And that is the space to wonder. And it can be framed as a positive as well as a negative thing. Because as humans, we've kind of got used to, or at least we, in the past, became a little bit comfortable with the notion of being ignored as some ambiguous thing. We obviously don't like being ignored, but we don't necessarily know if you're actually being ignored or if someone's actually doing something else. We get used to that. For example, in the past, you would send a letter and you would wait for, I don't know how long, 2 weeks for a reply maybe. Or you'd send a voicemail. You didn't know if they actually listened to it or not. Or many a time you've waved across the room and nobody waved back. And for all of those things, you don't necessarily know if they actually got the message or if they've just chosen to ignore you. And living in that uncertainty, there was a level of discomfort, but it was also a kind of cushion. It left space for, dare I say, generous interpretation. it let you protect your own dignity while you waited to figure out where you actually stood with this person. And read receipts. They kind of got rid of that space because for the first time, ignoring someone became undeniable. There was no possibility of them ignoring me. No, I suspect they're ignoring me. Rather, an existing timestamp that said, hey, I read your message and I didn't reply. So there was no harm or ill intent in building in the read receipts into messages. They were genuinely solving a problem. You would send something important and you didn't know if it arrived, so now you do. And the thing is, you really actually don't know if they genuinely saw it by mistake or they are actively ignoring you. And adding the read receipts into something like that, it feels like clarity is the right choice, right? But there's something about clarity and the notion of kindness that they don't always follow the same trajectory. And especially in our technological world, that soft uncertainty that existed before, the notion of maybe they just didn't see it yet, maybe they're busy. It wasn't forgive my software development terms, a bug in the way in which we communicated with others. It was actually a load-bearing thing. It was absorbing some of the emotional weight that comes with rejection and being ignored. Because reaching out to someone is a vulnerable stage to be in. And when we removed that, the weight of it, it didn't actually disappear. We didn't know where to put it or where to go with this. And it became a little bit of an anxiety-inducing thing. And the thing is, read receipts, they were just the beginning. Instagram, it now shows you, or it's showed for a while, when someone was last active. WhatsApp says when they were last online. And the little typing dots indicate that they're starting to reply. And then maybe they stopped. And as technology has evolved layer by layer, we've made this private act of thinking about someone into something observable. And there's a term that researchers use for this, and it's called ambient awareness. And it's this constant low-level knowledge of what someone else is doing without either of you actually choosing to share it with the respective others. And it was designed to feel like closeness to another person. But for a lot of people, myself included actually, it feels a little bit like I'm being watched, or this notion of surveillance that the world likes to talk about these days. Uncertainty in relationships is not a problem that I think needs to be solved, because I think it's part of how relationships develop. When there's mutual vulnerability, you become closer to another. How do you think you form friendships and long-term relationships? It's that building of one person reaches out and the other one accepts that with a level of kindness and stuff, and then reaches out to the same level. It's kind of like a little bit of an onion. As you get deeper, you become more vulnerable towards another. And that is a very important part of how relationships develop. And that space between sending and receiving in our technological world, there exists a gap. And in that gap is kind of where you figure out how much you care about the other person. Because there are many people there, they're like, oh, you know what, it's fine, ignore me, I really don't care. But there are others, like in our blog case, where you really do care a little bit too much about if that person is ignoring you or not. And the thing is, in that, you notice your own feelings towards a situation before someone else can point it out or mess it up or whatever. And read receipts, they got rid of that gap, that figuring out gap, and it took it away. And the thing is, what happens if these apps now start recording response latency? And they say, whenever Bianca communicates with X replies within 2 seconds, but Bianca always takes 4 hours. What would the results mean for our relationship? It's a weird world that we live in with regards to technology mediating a lot of our human relationships. And you know, many a time, I really wish that read receipts didn't exist because it feels like too much pressure. Maybe it's just a thing, like I'm not great at replying at this stage in my life. It's actually really difficult, to be honest. It's yeah, it's just hard, and I think it's overwhelming, and it's yeah, I don't know. It feels like I owe people something because of it, and I don't want to be rude. I don't want to do this kind of stuff, so I choose not to read their messages, just to not indicate the read receipts, which is rude in itself. So we stuck in this cycle. But at times, when I need to get hold of someone, it is nice to know that they've read it. And to quote my father, communication only happens when both parties have acknowledged that it has occurred. So that dad thumbs up in the past was the notion of read receipts. Anyway, it's hump day. Check you guys tomorrow.